Hello everyone, welcome along to Live on Air this Sunday, and we've got a special presenter with us this evening. He's Peter Lane. Now, just before I get Peter to introduce himself, we need to be aware that I'm just cognizant that no one's come into the broadcast yet, so Peter and I are just going to share one or two other things, and we will come back to them later in the broadcast. And for those of you that want the edited broadcast, I'll probably just edit out the first couple of minutes of this. But Peter, before we do a formal introduction for you, I just wonder whether you would be able to fill me in a little bit more on what the Green Church movement is, so that I can ask a realistic question or two later on in the broadcast.
Okay. You may be aware that I was asked to attend a seminar in World Council of Churches at Bossy in Switzerland about a year and a bit ago now. And the title of that was, Peace, Justice and Ecology, and it ended up being it was definitely an eco-theology presentation, but it ended up covering a lot broader ground than what even the organisers had envisaged. And we got a group of people there from most of the English-speaking world that were very much behind doing things, and we were sharing ideas of what was happening in different countries. And one of the things that intrigued Mark Gibson and I particularly was a program running in Denmark called Grøn Kirke, which when you translate it is green churches. And then we found out there was actually a number of other green church programs, and they all had the same basic sort of agenda that operated different ways. So the basic thought, the basic premise of Green Church as it was run in Europe and some other places is that you support individual parishes or congregations. The focus is around a building as much as a congregation to grow through the process of discovering what they can do to help and understand eco-theology's concepts. And in practice, this became, let's run a process within the local congregation and then decide to do some actions from it. And at a organisational level, a Green Church department would both resource that and assist that, but it would also certify the results in a vaguely analogous manner to a Green Star certificate for a commercial building in New Zealand.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so it's very much more accessible than Green Star, and is being deliberately a green church. It's aimed at much more than just making sure that your heating systems run efficiently and that you don't use any power. It's also talking about what do we do in our worship that expresses the fact that we are part of a green community. What do we do in the community that would make what can we do in our homes? It's much more holistic than the certification programs. So then I see
that we've got our first couple of viewers in.
Oh, okay.
And what I'd like to do is I'm not going to edit that out, because I think that's a really helpful kind of background information about Green Church, and our viewers can pick this up later on. Just a reminder, if you are viewing, the Q&A pod should be visible to you, and you can type your questions and comments in as we're going along through tonight's broadcast. What we're going to do tonight is look at some of the really effective ways that we can use six senses, but I'd ask Peter Lane to come in and help me present this because Peter's a beginner in six senses, but he's a very experienced guy in IT and all of that kind of thing. So without any further ado, Peter, I'd like you to just say a little bit about yourself. Thank you.
Oh, about myself, that could be dangerous. I'm an expatriate Australian, but that was 15 years ago, so I'm trying to actually remind people that that's not the case, which is probably counterproductive. But anyway, I grew up in a Methodist and then Uniting Church family, and came to New Zealand and said, well, I need to find something that must be a bit like that, and joined the Methodist Church. And over the last 15 years, I've been finding out that it's almost completely different than anything I knew in Australia, but I'm still here anyway.
Great.
Yeah, professionally, I've worked in consulting, engineering, and IT, particularly in health and education, but with some other areas as well. And I'm now looking at ways that I can take those skills and apply them to things that are relevant to the church. And if you heard any of my rants just before on green churches, that's one of them. Another one is trying to work out ways that our churches can use presentation technology much better, and a few other little pet projects that I keep trying to work on when other things don't get in the way.
Well, thank you for that. If Max Thompson is one of the viewers, Max, would you like to just say that you've got an engineering background in there as well? Just a comment into the Q&A pod, that would be quite helpful. Now, what we're going to do, how we're going to structure tonight, I'm going to walk us through what a demonstration student, Kimi Suzuki, does when she's learning about her personal profile in six senses. And there are huge numbers of people that belong to six senses that haven't, at this point in time, completed their profile. And when you log in these days, you'll see that there is a profile badge to complete. And so I'm just going to share my screen with you. And I've logged in as Kimi Suzuki. And Kimi is a typical person who, if you look at your screen, you can see on the right-hand side of the screen that her profile completion is 69% done. And immediately below that profile completion bar are a couple of links that can help her to complete. Now, Peter, it's confession time for you. You've applied for this completion profile badge, and I've awarded it to you, but have you completed your profile?
Well, I'm at 69%, the same as Kimi, so the answer is probably partially.
Okay, so let's just wander through and see why profile completion is quite good. Now, see that Kimi still has two links to work on, and one of them is make 3 friends. That means she has already made a couple of friends. So what I'm going to do is click on that link, and up comes the list of people that she could make friends with. You can see there are a lot of people in there. It says there are 310 users that she could make friends with. I see that Rill Biggs is sitting there as an online person. So Rill, if you're watching this, I'm going to ask Kimi to make friends with Rill. So I just type in search for Rill, and up has come Rill's name. And what Kimi can do is either send a friend request or send a message. The messages are internal to Six Senses. Or she can edit her group membership, but we won't worry about that. We're just going to send a request off to Rill Biggs. And the reason is that Kimi wants to share some professional development with Rill. So it's not quite the same as a Facebook making friends, but she sent that that request off, and it's still saying over on her profile completion to make 3 friends. She won't actually get an answer to that until Rill has actually accepted Kimmy's friendship. Now, the reason why friends are so important is that when you get a group of people together, you may want to create a resource specifically for those people that you've made friends. They may belong to the same kind of professional development group. For example, when we talk about Green Church a little later on in this, there may be 50 people across the Six Senses site who are interested in that. So it's very helpful for them to be able to make friends, even if they don't form their own independent group. So, Peter, having watched that explanation, are you confident that you can go ahead and send some friend requests off for other people?
Well, I had complied with that part, but I was actually trying to find people to add the other day, and I couldn't do that. I'm not sure what I had forgotten.
Well, it may be that you had actually sent requests off, but people haven't replied back to you.
There's certainly some of that, but
yeah, and that's always a bit of a worry. But here's how you would find friends normally. Up along your dashboard, you'll see that you can create content, which is about your profile and files that you upload, etc. You can create pages and collections of pages. And in groups, you can find groups, but you can also find friends. So if I click on that, find friends, and let me just see if I can find Peter Lane. Yeah, I can. And since I'm logged in as Kimmy, Peter, I'm going to add that. So you've now got a mechanical friend. Now, when I look at your profile, it's brought your profile up. My goodness, you've got 10 friends already.
Yep, I didn't muck around.
Yeah, no mucking around there. Let's have a look at some of those people because they're interesting characters in their own right. First thing, for those of you that are logged in and watching this, you'll see that Peter, in his completion, he's put his first name, his last name. He's filled out more than most people do. He's got his own website. He's put his phone, so he's not shy about that. But my recommendation, Peter, would be that you don't display that on your profile page. And the reason is you may want to make this profile page publicly accessible. And it's over to you whether you want your...
Yep, I understand exactly where you're coming from. I made a deliberate decision to do that because that's my public phone, if you like. It's related to my business, and as such, I'm quite happy to take calls whenever.
That's great. Thank you. As long as people are aware that sometimes they don't want their private phones displayed there. So looking at Peter's profile page, he's made all the friends he wants. How did you get on in terms of commenting on other people's pages, Peter?
That's probably one of the things that hasn't happened a lot. I've had some inbox conversations with a few people about various things, but yeah, looking at other people's profiles is not something that I've done heavily. Okay,
let's have a look at you're a member of the Effective Leadership Group. I've just been working on that today, so I'm going to click over there and you can see straight away that I've actually started the process of upgrading the page, so it's got a lot easier navigation to follow. So when you go to the About page, you can see here are the things that Effective Leadership is doing in 2016. We're developing a whole series of micro MOOCs. These are not academic courses, they're far from it. They're social learn courses. And by social learning, it means that a whole lot of people get interactive and involved. The next thing that the group is doing is that it's got its share forums. and communities of meaning. So if I can click on either the graphic or whatever, and up comes the community share. Now this will be something that many of you haven't looked at before, and you can see here that there are a number of parishes that are putting forward a little bulletin. Sometimes they're active, sometimes they're not. And the aim is to bring more and more parishes in. So just for example, Mali Molatika provides wonderful information about what she's doing in Beckenham, Sydenham. Her pages are called Have More Kit Kat. And she's been fantastic at putting out what she believes makes her eligible for the ordination assessment. And these are wonderful kinds of observations. I really think if you're interested in spiritual development, you can't go past Melly's very regular posting into the forum. We've got my own congregation that I am involved with at East Coast Base. I don't do very much for that, but every so often I'll put a few things out. Manawatu, etc., etc. So some of them are active, some of them are inactive. But Peter, your parish is what?
My guess is entirely inactive. Emmanuel Methodist. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's listed. So the easy way to do it is that you need to go to your journals, and you get to your journals by clicking on the S6 icon, bring back the dashboard, and under content, you look for journals. And you can see here, there are 3 journals that Kimmy's got. Once you've got a journal, this is the most amazing thing. Let's have a look at Kimmy Suzuki's journal. There it is there. It's her basic private journal. And every so often I'll put an article in because I don't want Kimmy to be just sort of, you know, totally a mechanical character. So I could create a new entry for Kimmy's journal, and we'll call this one Learning Successes. And I'm not going to write a lot here. I'll just put such a lot to learn and save the entry. And you can see there's the new entry has been created. Now, what Kimmy can do with that journal is that she can go to her profile page. How does Kimmy get to a profile page quickly and easily? She just needs to click on her name. And now, this is the point that most people don't really get when they're first time in Six Senses. You can't delete your profile page, but you can edit it. And what I did there, I'll just go back, I clicked the edit page. So remember, how did I get to it? I clicked on my name and then I click edit page. And when you start to edit the page, you can do all sorts of interesting things. For example, on the very left-hand tab, it says edit the layout. And at present, it's a very basic layout. It's got, you can see the button identification, the radio button. It's got a single block across the top and then 2 split blocks. So I'm not going to change that. But everything that Kimmy's been putting in has mostly been in that top block, but she's put a few things in the split part of the page. So how does she bring, for example, her journal in? Let's say we want to bring in the whole of Kimmy Suzuki's private journal. Quite happy to do that because she's a fictional character. So I've clicked on journals. I picked the journal up. You can see I've picked it up. I'm holding it down with my mouse button down on the left-hand side. And if I move it around the page, where I can drop it to will show up as a yellow bar. And I'm actually going to drop Kimmy's journal over here on the right. And now it says I've got to set the block title. And if I leave it blank, the title of the journal will be used. I'm happy about that. It's Kimmy Suzuki's journal. Oh, she's got 3 journals, so I had to choose it. How many entries do I want per page? I'm going to have 3. That's my standard thing, but you can have up to 10 or 20 possibly, and then just click Save. And now her basic journal is displaying on the page. And I scroll to the bottom and click Done. So when I now go back to Kimmy's dashboard page, there's her dashboard, and I want to look at her profile. So I click on her name, and there is the journal displaying. Now, in fact, I've displayed it twice. My apologies about that. I didn't realize I was displaying it twice. So I'm going to edit this page again, and I'm going to delete. Oh, that's her blog about life as a parish steward. Sorry, that's different from her basic private journal. Peter, is that understandable to you?
Yeah, it makes what I was trying to work with before.
Right. So I'm just bear with me one further second. Just going to minimize that and close that. And I'm going to come back hopefully live into the meeting. Yes. Cancel. Okay. So that's a kind of thing about profiles and journals. That you really do want to work on getting your profile complete by clicking those links and just doing the instructions that it says, and look for particularly pages that other people have created, possibly amongst the friends you've made. And when you see those pages, scroll to the bottom and put place feedback. This is just like Facebook, of course, but the great advantage here of the feedback is that it enables the person to improve the resource that they're creating for others. And that's one of the powerful things in Six Senses. What the site is about is that we're trying to create resources for one another so that we're informing one another of things going on. Now, our first question has come through, so I'm just going to select this. It's come from Max, and Max says, as a member of Engineers for Social Responsibility, ESR, I'm interested in the green church concept. So Peter, I'm going to stop talking about Six Senses for a bit now, and we'll talk about green church and then just see how we could apply some of the things about green church into Six Senses. They're very easy to do. So tell us about green church.
Well, green church, after I was at a seminar in Switzerland, we worked out that this was actually something that was happening all over the world, and that it was maybe helpful to have some sort of structure around it. So while it's certainly useful to happen at, well, the primary objective of it, in fact, is to have things happen at local congregation levels. Once you start wanting to certify the results, you need to have a common framework, and so the people at the seminar committed to do that. Where I'm involved is really trying to pick up an umbrella organisation, or kickstart an umbrella organisation for New Zealand and the Pacific, and make it as a support and consulting organisation to assist things that happen in individual denominations. So ecumenically, not just the Methodist Church. So obviously being well connected in the Methodist Church, that will be my starting point. So through Public Issues Network, there's some work happening already. There's a group in Christchurch that are developing what's colloquially known as 48 questions. And we'll, the PAC has funded for some initial prototyping work to happen with that in parishes. But I guess where I'm interested and where I see Six Senses is this whole thing is about creating networks of people and churches around the world, so that we are working efficiently. We are not constantly reinventing the wheel. If somebody has a good idea, then let's get that idea out here. Six Senses is part of that. That at a national level, I envisage that Green Churches Aotearoa will start delivering online and blended courses. We'll have standard resource papers and things available as per a standard website. We'll facilitate consulting with individual congregations that are trying to implement some particular feature. And the platform behind Six Senses is actually pretty much ideal for a lot of those objectives. That's exactly the type of thing that it's set up to facilitate. So rather than reinvent the wheel, I'd rather sit alongside Six Senses and utilise that resource more efficiently than reinvent the whole wheel and do something completely different that essentially does the same thing.
I think there are two things there, and Max, you may want to comment further on your question there. I'll click that as answer as having been done, completed. But the time for churches to get much more active together in terms of environmental awareness, really, well, it was about a decade ago, wasn't it, or 2 decades ago, and it's been so slow, and yet the problems have been growing and growing and growing apace. So for those of us that don't belong to those other organisations, we need to be aware that people like Peter have been busy creating a whole set of resources. So Six Senses is just a platform that would enable Green Church to get going. So, yeah, Peter, what I'd like to do is see if I can get just bear with me. Have I been able to bring up another Six Senses screen or not?
You've brought up a Six Senses screen.
Okay. Didn't mean to do that. Sorry about that. What I wanted to do was to highlight the fact that you've already created a PDF resource from a meeting that you went to. Could you explain that resource while I just see if I can bring the thing up in the background?
Yeah. So a lot of what I've talked about has been that I went as a representative of the Methodist Church to a seminar in Switzerland, and this is my report to the church on what I learned there. Now, one of the things I learned there is that when it comes to theological concepts, I'm not very good at articulating them. That the fundamental and a perceived way of going forward are set out in the report for the consideration of the various parts of the church that sent me. So the report had sat there. The activities that it recommends have largely been picked up in the public issues network, though there's some input from other places as well. And yeah, that was my position at a point in time. Life moves on, and we do things differently, maybe, but that's basically what the objectives were when we started.
Okay. Look, I haven't been able to bring that up. I inadvertently closed the Google window, so I can't actually bring that stuff back up at this point. But the resource... Sorry?
Exercise for the student. Find my profile and have a look.
Yeah, a great exercise. I'd recommend everyone try that. The actual report's extensive. It's immaculately done, Peter, and it's not huge to download. I can't remember how many pages, about 29?
It shouldn't be, probably only a dozen.
A dozen, okay. It's a very extensive report, and it's beautifully done, and it gives some guidelines for churches. Max, in particular, if you want to take that through to your congregation, or Stuart, if you're watching as well. I think Wendy Russell might have been watching, I'm not 100% sure. These resources are created for people and they can be used. Now, what Six Senses does through its micro MOOCs, and the next time you log into Six Senses, before you log in, if you just sit at the actual login page and look on the right-hand side and go to the micro MOOC, and there you can see that's a big micro MOOC in the sense that there's a lot going on. Just click on that micro MOOC link, and you don't have to be logged in to look at all the things, all the resources that are conveniently handled in one place. So you've got, in that micro MOOC, Peter, you've got 5 forums, 5 videos, one associated with each forum, a live on-air broadcast like this that goes for about 60 minutes, plus a series of other resources as well. So it's a very convenient way of doing it. And if you decide to use the Six Senses platform, you can set up your own institution, which is separate from Six Senses. You just need your own, what do you call it, URL. And we then set you up as what is called an institution, and your institution doesn't need to bear any relation to our institution. It's a very, very good piece of software, very powerful in the sense that we could have a half a dozen institutions, each of 30,000 people. So when we're talking about 300 or 400, that are active in Six Senses, it's nothing. And so I'd certainly recommend that you do that. Haven't had any further questions coming through, so anything you want to say about your journey so far into Six Senses?
I don't think that I have journeyed very far at all. I've sort of recognised the nature of the tool, and with my work I had come across the output of such tools before, and have been basically just scratching the surface of it to confirm or deny whether it can do what I think it can do in specific instances that I think. I'm by no means as far advanced as I would like to be in the things that I would like to do with Six Senses. Life keeps on getting in the way. I really think that I've got a long way to go, and a lot of it does revolve around those sort of broader concepts of it, which are sort of partly technical or partly strategic, about, well, yes, how do I go about setting up an institution? How do I go about adding content that's accessible to specific groups as opposed to publicly, as opposed to I'm thinking in terms of paid learning rather than unpaid learning, or social learning. And it may be that there are other tools that I use for that part of what happens. But
that's a really interesting point, because of course the vast majority of we call ours Six Senses, but it's powered by Mahara software.
Yeah.
And virtually every institution is using it for delivering paid content. We're one of the very few that have said, hey, this is about social learn in a church ministry context. And I mean, God, some of the resources that people have created, the Stuart Mannon's resource on gospel, the Lavinia Elder resource in Practical Theological Reflection. And it's simply astonishing, the creativity that's been unleashed, and we're a very small group of creators, but quite a large group of consumers of the resources. And I'm just getting going now in making more and more of those resources available, because they've tended to be locked up. They were hidden, if you like. You couldn't be in Six Senses because you had to belong to a Trinity College course, and the college no longer wants the resource, but certainly there's a group of us that want it, and there are a number of people that are really quite keen to share their resources around, and there's a very willing group of consumers, if you like. But if you want paid content, man, you're on the way in which you control the settings is fantastic.
Yeah, I want to contribute to that Creative Commons, to borrow a phrase, as well. But there are some things that Green Churches Aotearoa, as an independent organisation, will need to offer in-depth training on specific things on a cost recovery basis, and because it's using experts whose time you have to pay for, or because of the nature of the resources that you license, or whatever it may be. So I definitely need to have that. And my only comment in terms of saying let's take this away and maybe use another tool was in terms of a organisational like separation rather than technical separation.
Right. Well, we'll see how that conversation develops. But in the meantime, Peter has, for those of you that have come in a little bit later, Peter has fraudulently claimed a badge at the start of the course, which I awarded, and now he's just busy completing his profile. And I guess we've had up to 5-6 concurrent viewers in here so far, Peter. And for those of the viewers that are new, you can ask a question, but we're pretty well coming to the end of our 40-minute scheduled time. And one of the things that I'd like to emphasize is that once you've got your profile complete, you can add journals to it, you can add videos to it, you can start to edit that profile page. You can never delete it. But you can start to edit it and make it look very interesting. And for example, if you were to search out Joan O'Connor's profile page, you'll see that she's created 2 other pages. Now, these 2 pages take you to her artworks. And these are artworks for sale, and we're going to make a Six Senses shop for people that do want to sell their products, as well as create free products. But in Joan's case, you've got some stunning artworks. In Lavinia's case, you've got some stunning storyboard approaches. In Stuart's case, you've got a libretto around a set of resources he wrote called Gospel. So there are more and more of these things being created all the time. And the easy way to get started is to add something to your profile page. As you get more sophisticated, you'll want to create pages of your own and put them into collections of your own. So I think that probably brings us 7:37 now, and we finish at 7:40. So Peter, I want to say thank you very, very much. You've been a good sport about all of this.
I actually want to ask you a question if you want to use the last 3 minutes more practically.
Okay.
Yeah. So what would you recommend, or how would you describe making the distinction between your journal and your categories of journal versus pages versus collections? Well, what sort of organisational entities do you see that they fit to?
Well, that's a key question. I recommend everyone keeps journals because you can use journals in multiple pages. Basically, as soon as you put the journal onto your profile page or another page that you create, it now has an Atom RSS feed. So you can feed that out to anything you like, a blogger, WordPress sites, or other pages within Six Senses. there are a whole the sixth senses is very sophisticated in the sense that you can come at the same question of display from 3 or 4 different angles, and that's what flummoxes many new people in sixth senses. There's not just one way of doing things, there are multiple ways of getting the same result. So we have to make a kind of a decision, and I think that the journal is the easiest way to get going. But after that, you can create a page, put onto it text blocks, embed videos, PDFs, etc. Like you've got the PDF attached to your page. You could actually display the PDF on the page. That editing, when you do the editing of the page, and pull the PDF onto the page, and it'll give you a PDF displayer. So
by the sound of it, I could create a page that was the displayed report.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Create the page to display the report, and then you may have multiple pages that are displaying different kinds of environmental issues. So I think that's an excellent response. Last thing I would say for everyone watching, that if at the dashboard page you can find a link that says Learn Sixth Senses through video resourcing. Now I've got to do all of those videos again at the end of the year because we're getting a major upgrade, and little things in navigation will change. So I will do them all again, but they're really short, sharp, sweet tutorials that help you to make some progress in sixth senses. So Peter, thank you very much indeed for watching. Thank you to all the participants that have been watching, and we'll say over and out for tonight. And to leave the video call, Peter, there's a little red phone button right above your head. You just click it, and we're over and out.
No worries. Thank you for